Than just the headlines. WFLA. The following is a paid program. The views expressed are those of the host and callers and not those of News Radio 102.5, its management, or advertisers.
Welcome to You Have Power Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark. You Have Power is your opportunity to get answers to your legal questions. To be a part of today's program, call 407-916-674-1025 or toll free at 855-545-1025. The lines are now open. But now, here's your host, Orlando's drive time attorney, Justin Clark.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Happy Friday night. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. Planned on a beautiful Central Florida weekend. I know the traffic is terrible right now. Just stick with us for the next hour. We have plenty of legal things to talk about. I'm going to teach you a lot about bankruptcy, saving your home, IRS debt, all sorts of legal issues. And if you have any questions, as always, I have attorneys standing by at the law firm at 321-282-1055. The website is www.youhavepower.com. That is youhavepower.com. You can also watch this show live, or maybe not live, on Facebook, and that is at ATTY Justin Clark. So feel free to pull up the Facebook account and just hit play right there on the top, and you'll be able to watch this show. On the other side of the glass, pushing the buttons, answering your calls, as always, is my good friend Tom Benson. Tom, how are you, sir?
Hello. It's a happy Friday, and do you realize you'll be saying traffic is terrible out there for another 5 years?
I'm going to be saying that for the rest of my life. Let's be honest, Tom. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
I know it's going to get worse before it gets better because of this big what is it called? What is this construction project
Oh, it's
called?
got a name. Yeah, I don't know. The I-4
ridiculous.
rehab or something.
Whatever.
I don't know. I still can't figure out how it's going to look when it's finished.
I wish I was one of the builders on the job or one of the construction guys. Now, that's how you make some money right there. What is it? How many billions of dollars?
I think the guy making the most money is the head engineer. The engineering feat on this thing has got to be incredible. I don't know how you even start to do something like that.
Speaking of construction, what are they doing with this building here? As I walked in, I didn't even recognize the place. They've ripped down all the walls in the iHeart building. I don't know what's going on out
Renovation, permanent.
Oh, how long is that going to take?
Temporary inconvenience, permanent beautification.
And you know what is not temporary in this building? What I have a real problem with? Thank gosh, it's only 4 stories.
Mm-hmm.
But the elevators here are so slow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, am I just being a rude guy, or am I being right here?
No, you're right. They are the slowest in the world.
I have never seen elevators that are... This is a new building, guys. Mm-hmm. We're right here in Maitland, right across from my law firm at the iHeart building.
Relatively new.
I mean, it looks like a nice building. I know the rent's expensive.
It's at least 26 years old, though.
If iHeart pays anywhere near what I pay at the exact same building across the street, it is not a cheap building. This is like Class A office space.
Wow.
And the elevators are... You might as well take the stairs. I mean, I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we call the stairway the corporate gym, by the way, because that's how you get your exercise. Up and down, up and down, yeah.
You know, football season's right around the corner. Are you a big football guy, Tom?
I like a good game, but I don't have a team that I root for. As a matter of fact, I think next weekend is the Hall of Fame game already.
Oh,
yeah.
It comes quickly.
Yes, it does.
Are you more of a Saturday or Sunday guy? You know, if you have a family, you've got to choose Saturday. I mean, you can watch Saturday and Sunday, but you have to choose a favorite. Mm-hmm. Like if you're going to have to do a family event, it's going to be Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
Are you a Saturday football guy or Sunday football guy?
More of a Sunday guy.
All right. Because you grew up in the Pittsburgh area, I believe.
Well,
right?
Pennsylvania, so, Eagles, more of Eagles territory than Steelers.
When you grow up in Tennessee like I did, it's just Saturday is the day. And, and maybe one of the reasons look, I'm a big Patriots fan, too. Don't get me wrong. I love Sundays. But Saturday, you can watch football all day long, and you don't go to work the next day, too.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one plus for Saturday. By Saturday, I, of course, mean college football.
You can get this real lazy feeling if you watch football all day long. Like you got to get motivated to get back in gear for work,
You got it. Went to a wedding. Thanks, Brandon Stewart, for filling in with me, or for me last week, and I was in a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Up in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I can't name the town, but it's like 2 hours north of Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
What a fun ride that is from here.
Bet.
And we drove, okay?
Up I-75?
Oh, the whole way.
Yeah.
I mean, just the whole way. What a terrible ride that is. Terrible. And then you get to Atlanta. You think you're almost there? That's a good one. That's funny.
Yes, it's not easy getting through Atlanta.
So think about this. Be glad you weren't me last weekend, okay? So leave Orlando Thursday, say noon, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's at least a 9-hour ride to get there.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to say 6 or 7. It's 9 hours, especially with a 4-year-old in the car. 9 hours. spend 2 or 3 days going to this wedding, right? And it was a fantastically beautiful wedding. It was my little cousin Derek. Congratulations. It was beautiful, more than I could have ever imagined.
Mm-hmm.
But then, Saturday night becomes a late night because it's a wedding. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Wake up Sunday morning, leave like 9 or 10 o'clock, get home 9 or 10 o'clock, and now it's time to go to work on Monday.
Yeah.
That's just not a very relaxing weekend, is it?
Talk about jet lag.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Wow.
But, how's everything in your life?
Yeah, fine.
No complaints?
No.
How are the ratings on the station? Good? How are we doing?
We don't talk about that.
Oh, that's right. We're not allowed to.
They're fine. Yeah, they're fine.
I thought because I'm more of a nighttime show, I can mention it. But you're right. We won't even get into it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, my name is Justin Clark. This is News Radio 102.5. 321-282-1055 for all of your legal questions. If you want to go to the website, www.youhavepower.com. And you can email me directly, jclark@youhavepower.com, or watch this show on Facebook at ATTY Justin Clark.
I've seen your TV commercials, by the way. Very nicely done.
You like them?
Yeah, they're kind of, laid back, sitting on the front stoop, talking to people walking by. Sure,
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
I don't know. I can never tell.
It beats the routine of what you normally hear,
I appreciate it. And we are helping a lot of people deal with their bankruptcies and their IRS issues. And I haven't really done any TV spots in, 6 months or a year. I felt like people were forgetting about me out there.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm back in the game, Tom.
Did you have some agency do it, or was it a TV station?
It was a TV station.
Yeah.
I've never had an agency really do the spots for me.
Yeah.
We've always had the TV stations do it.
Well, considering what they had to work with, they look fine.
Right? And, people do not lie. Television puts on a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Does it? I mean, it does, Tom.
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
be honest here.
Yeah.
I have people come in my office all the time, and my TV show is running in the lobby where they're waiting.
Yeah.
And when they walk in, they say, wow, you really lost some weight. And I say, I'm the fattest I've ever been. But that's because TV, I was skinnier back then, and they were saying
Sure.
I was fat.
Sure.
What if I was back on TV now doing this show all the time?
They say TV adds 10 pounds, and they
No,
say
I think it's more than 10 times.
the perfect build is, I think, you 5'5" male, 160 pounds, and then you'll look just fine on TV.
I don't know. I don't think I can look fine anywhere, Tom.
I haven't weighed 165 pounds since my Army days years ago.
So here's what we're going to do tonight, guys. We're going to talk a little bit about bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy, Chapter 7, Chapter 13, if you have a lot of debt. And then closer to the end of the show, we're going to talk about how you could possibly get your IRS debt completely wiped away
Cool.
through bankruptcy,
Wow.
which a lot of people don't know that you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could owe $100,000 to the IRS, and if you meet certain parameters, get that debt wiped away completely, gone. They can never come after you again.
Wow.
So stick around. We're going to talk about that in the second half hour. But let me tell you a few different things about bankruptcy here that you need to know. There are two main types of bankruptcy that consumers normally file. The easiest one is called a Chapter 7. I'm sure you've heard about Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So let me tell you a little bit about it. It's the easy one. It's just you're cashing your chips in, take what I have and just make sure I don't have any more debt and let's all walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that simple, but that's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're wiping away all of your debt. But not everyone can file a Chapter 7. To do a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you have to pass what's called the means test. MEANS, means test. And what that means is you can only make a certain amount of money to qualify. If you make too much money, they're not going to let you wipe away all this debt that easily.
Is that less than six figures, or it just depends?
It depends, but typically substantially less than six figures. And it depends on how many kids, where you live, a lot of different other things.
Got it.
But the means test you have to qualify for. So you have to qualify to be eligible to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Chapter 7 bankruptcy goes something like this. You file the bankruptcy. You go to what's called a 341 meeting. It's not even in the courtroom, so to speak. It's not in front of a judge. It's just a meeting with the trustee, and they say, okay, is all the paperwork in order? It's a very simple process. It takes 5 minutes, 5 minutes in and out. Then after you go to this 341 meeting, all you do is wait on a discharge. So essentially, at Chapter 7, if all goes well, you're talking about 2, 3, 4 months max, and you have no more debt. You're done.
Wow.
The legal fees for something like this are very minimal. I mean, $2,000 typically max, $2,500 definitely max to wipe out every single person you've ever owed in your entire life. I mean, pull your credit. Go to Credit Karma right now and just see what all is on there. Think about how many Sprint phones you've turned in and didn't pay the the turn-in fee, or maybe you leased a car and they're coming after you for the overage and mileages, or credit cards that you haven't paid, credit cards that you might have gotten when you were 18.
Or you have a medical bill outstanding.
Or medical bills.
Yeah.
All of these bills can get wiped away in a Chapter 7 very inexpensively, very quickly, and quite efficiently.
How much of a hit on your credit score do you think?
That's one of the questions I get all the time.
Sure.
And my normal answer is this: your credit is going to get better. What do you mean? What do you mean get better? File bankruptcy, my credit gets better. Well, of course. Your credit's already bad for most of you because you haven't been paying these bills anyway. So the credit is already in the dumps. So when I pull my credit report that I'm going to see for you, I pull a special report where I can see everything. And when I see this report, it's going to tell me what your credit score is right now and what it's going to be in 6 months after we file bankruptcy. And almost always it's going to go up by 100 points.
Wow.
And you say, well, I want to buy a house. Well, if you have $30,000 of credit card debt already out there that you're not paying and you want to buy a house, it's going to probably take us longer to deal with all this credit card debt and then wait on your credit to go up as it is just file bankruptcy, wipe that all out, and then that seasoning process starts. And by seasoning process or seasoning period, I mean when you go to get a mortgage, they're going to look back on your credit, of course, and see when's the last bankruptcy, the last foreclosure. That's the seasoning period. Yeah. Some lenders will lend you money to buy a new home 1 year post-bankruptcy. Wow. Now, most of the time you're looking at 2 years, 3 years, but some lenders will go as low as one, you know? Mm-hmm. So many times it's better to just bite the bullet now, get rid of all this debt, and then start that seasoning period. So we can go buy a house. We can get back in the housing market, stop paying someone else's mortgage. So we really need to look at it. And I'm conservative when it comes to bankruptcy. If I don't think you should do bankruptcy, I'm going to try to help you deal with the credit and get you to someone like RP Funding who can do a loan for you without filing bankruptcy. But there are times where it just doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
It's just going to be easier, cheaper, and much less drama in your life to just wipe it out by filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. 3-month process might cost you $2,000 in legal fees, and then you're done. Now you're back in the housing market 1, 2, 3 years down the road.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, another thing for people who own their house now, most people think, well, I file a Chapter 7, I give up my house, I got to go rent for a while. That is not true. Mm-hmm. You can absolutely keep your home in a Chapter 7. In fact, you can do a modification through the Bankruptcy Mediation Modification Program through the Chapter 7 now. Used to, you'd have to do the 13, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
So the modification, does that just change your interest rate, or it also lowers your principal?
It depends. So a modification, which we've talked about on the show many times, they can lower your interest rate all the way down to 2%. Mm-hmm. And I see it all the time. Sometimes they will lower the principal. Still rare. It's very rare, Tom, that it happens. But they can lower the principal. Now, let me give you a little piece of advice. If it's Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, they are not going to lower your principal. So if you go to hire someone who says they're going to do a loan mod for you and guarantees they're going to reduce principal or says it's very likely,
I've heard it,
and you have Fannie or Freddie, I can pretty much guarantee you they will not lower the principal because they just can't. It's backed by the government, and the government says they can't. So how are they going to? They can't. If you have a private lender, private money, sometimes they will. But it's still very rare. Make no mistake, a principal reduction and a modification is a very rare occurrence. Maybe 10% of the time, maybe 20 max. I mean, then that's really pushing it. So if you have any questions about bankruptcy, go ahead and give us a call. We have lawyers standing by, 321-282-1055. The website is www.youhavepower.com. You're listening to Justin Clark on News Radio 102.5 here with Tom Benson talking about bankruptcy. And we're also going to talk in a little while about how you can wipe away your IRS debt through bankruptcy.
All right. Now, you talked about a Chapter 7. What if you don't qualify for a Chapter 7? What's your other option?
So if you don't qualify, if you don't pass what we call the means test, you make too much money, you do have another option, and that is a Chapter 13. Now, a Chapter 13 is a little more complex. It's more of a repayment plan, okay? Now, you're still wiping away a lot of debt, don't get me wrong. But it's more of a repayment plan. So you're going to come up with a plan over the next 3 to 5 years to repay this debt. But the idea is to pay a very low percentage of it.
Okay.
So you're not going to be paying all of the debt. You're going to be paying a low percentage of the debt. And that's a Chapter 13. You don't have to go through the means test. So if you make too much money, you're going to look to the 13. Now, the beautiful part about a 13 is the legal fees are more expensive, but you can pay them over time typically. So you're not going to worry about one big, huge chunk of money up front. You can pay them over time.
Got it.
And also, if you have a lot of credit card debt, depending on your income, you might only pay 10% of that over the next 3 to 5 years. Or sometimes you can even come up with a plan where you pay it really quickly.
So it's not you don't pay forever and ever and ever until it's wiped out. It's a limited time of 3 to 5 years for some reason?
Exactly. And if you don't have a lot of debt, there are ways to make it last a year or even just a few months. It just depends. It really takes some creativity and really sitting down with someone like me and figuring out what the best plan is going to be. What's the best plan of attack? But the Chapter 13, I find most of my clients deciding to do a 13 is, number one, if they just can't qualify for a 7, or number 2, if you have a second mortgage where you have some HOA debt. So if you're one of these people who bought a house in 2006, you probably had a second mortgage. Remember that old term 80-20?
Yeah.
You get an 80-20 loan, so you would get an 80% loan and then a second loan from a different lender for 20%, so you didn't have to make any down payment.
Got it.
So you didn't have to come out of pocket for the down payment, and you didn't have to pay PMI. Everyone did it. Don't feel bad. Everyone did it.
It was the way to go then.
But now, after the economy crashed, now it's coming back a little bit. If you find that you are still underwater on this house on the first mortgage, you just look at the first mortgage.
Yeah.
So if, let's say you owe $200,000 on the first mortgage, but the house is only worth $190, but you have $100,000 second mortgage in a Chapter 13. If you were underwater on the first mortgage, you could strip away the second. And in a 13, you can also do the mediation modification program. So many times people will come to my office. Maybe they're behind on their first mortgage and their second mortgage, and they will want to save the home, but they don't want to save the home if they have to keep the second mortgage as well, because then they're going to be significantly underwater.
Sure.
So I say, look, here's the plan. Let's go in, modify this first mortgage, try to get the payment down to 2% interest rate, going to lower your payment significantly from what it was before, and then we're going to strip away the second. So now we're not that far underwater.
Yeah.
Because now we just have the first mortgage. Now we're lowering the payment to something way less than you would even rent the house for, and now life is good.
Yeah.
Or what if you have an HOA? What if you have an HOA lien or some HOA debt, okay? Maybe you forgot to pay the dues one month or whatever. Now they're coming after you for an extra $5,000 in legal fees. They're saying you owe $20,000. I mean, that becomes a substantial lien against your home.
And they can move a lot faster than a bank can, right?
And HOA, make no mistake, guys, can foreclose on you and take your home just like a bank, but they do it faster.
Yeah.
They have more local, talented, competent lawyers who only do HOA work who can come take your house, and they can take your house quickly. But the bad thing for them is if you file Chapter 13, we can wipe them out. Done. Bye-bye. Gonzo. It just becomes unsecured debt, basically.
Yeah.
So you can wipe out the second mortgage. You can wipe out the HOA lien, and now you saved your home. So in the process, though, you can do the modification on the first mortgage and save the home and make your payment lower by doing it that way. So it's fantastic. So Chapter 13 can be a fantastic tool for people who want to save their home, strip away a second mortgage, and there's no means test. But keep in mind, it is more complicated. It is more complex. Every month, you're going to be sending some money to the trustee's office, and they're going to pay your bills. If you want to buy a car, they're going to have to approve it. So it's not easy, but it can be an incredibly effective tool for really saving your financial life and rescuing your financial future.
Would it be like 10 cents on the dollar, or how much do you have to pay?
Yeah, it's based on income. So I have to come up with a plan that gives you a certain amount of money allocated for living expenses, and the rest is going to be paid to pay off this other debt.
Got it.
So you have to be creative with the planning, and you have to look ahead, and you have to structure a plan that essentially makes everyone happy, but that's advantageous to you as well.
But you structure something on the needs of the individual client, so it could vary from person to person.
Absolutely. Do not ever try to do a Chapter 13 by yourself. It's a terrible idea. But again, the beautiful thing about a Chapter 7 or a 13, depending on if you qualify for the means test or you pass the means test, whichever one you do, you can do a loan modification. And I think a lot of people get confused by what a loan modification really means. First of all, a loan modification takes a very, 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 very long time. If you do it outside of bankruptcy and you've been through it before, you know what I'm talking about. You call the bank, they say, oh, we're going to help you, we're here for you.
Sure.
Send in your docs and we'll modify you right away.
Yeah.
My name is John. Call me back next week, okay? You call John next week, and inevitably John doesn't work there anymore because they rotate employees left and right.
Yeah.
And they say, well, I didn't get your documents. What do you mean? We don't have any record of ever talking to you. And you go through this nasty process with them for months and months and sometimes years and years at a time. All the while now you're being put in foreclosure.
Sure, because if you're paying a 5% interest rate, why would they knock you down to 2%?
Right.
Because they're losing money on the deal.
You got that right. So if you've been through that process without bankruptcy, you know how miserable it is.
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful part about the modification process in bankruptcy is the federal court judges have more of an ability to slap these banks around if they don't comply. So when we do go to that mediation, so if you do want to modify your loan through the bankruptcy mediation program, there are very specific deadlines that the bank has to meet. So once we file, we're going to go to later on, maybe a month or two down the road, to the 341 meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next month, we're going to have the mediation. Most of the time, right in my office. We're going to have a mediator there. We're going to have the bank there. And you and me are going to be there. And we're going to talk to them. If they don't have all of their documents in order, they can get in big trouble. I mean, almost every time you're going to get a decision right there on the spot about whether your modification is approved or not. I have found in my office we're getting something like 80% of the modifications approved through the bankruptcy process, whereas through the regular loan modification process, just if you're in foreclosure or whatever,
yeah.
I mean, ultimately probably 80%, but it just takes years and
Yeah.
years and years. And sometimes people just wave the white flag. They're like, look, Justin, I don't want to send any more documents to these guys.
Yeah.
I've been sending them my pay stubs for the last year. I don't want to send them anything else.
You get worn out. Yeah.
And I think that is their philosophy, actually. I think the banks have decided it's better to just wear you out.
Mm-hmm.
And because they want to, they would rather foreclose on you guys. So look, make sure you understand this, okay? They would rather, if you owe them $300,000, they would rather sell your house right now to someone else for $200,000 as opposed to keeping you in there. People say that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't they want to keep me there for $300,000 when they're only going to get $200,000 down the street? But that's how it is. There are mortgage insurances out there. There are all sorts of ways these banks are getting paid off. They don't care.
So they could collect on that PMI insurance you were paying all that time.
Exactly. All sorts of different ways they can collect. They would rather get you out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But in the bankruptcy process, they are forced to go through specific guidelines, time frames, and they've got to make a decision.
Right.
One way or another, they have to make a decision right away. So, I mean, that's the Chapter 7. That's the Chapter 13. And that's the loan modification.
Now,
how much time do I have, Tom? I'm sorry.
Well, we have about 4 minutes yet.
Okay, I got it.
So, if there's Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 for the individual homeowner, there are other bankruptcies, like for businesses?
There are, absolutely. So you'll also hear about a Chapter 11, which consumers can do as well, but it's reserved more for businesses.
Okay.
So it's just because you can do it with a lot more debt, so to speak. So that's a whole nother...
So our presidential candidate, Donald Trump, has gone through several bankruptcies, and he's even proud about it, that because he makes, I guess, fees and money off of it somehow. And then he's getting hit by his opponents for saying, well, he's a failed businessman if he keeps having to do a bankruptcy. But the thing is, a bankruptcy used to be the B word, a scarlet letter, so to speak, years ago. But now it's more of a reordering of your assets as well as your liability, so it's sometimes advantageous for a business to file for bankruptcy, correct?
Here's what makes me nervous, and think about it not from necessarily Donald Trump perspective, but from your perspective, okay? Let's say you're making $30,000 a year, $35,000 a year. You have 2 kids, and over the course of raising these 2 kids, you've accumulated a lot of credit card debt, $30,000 in credit card debt, let's say. Your minimum payments on these credit cards is $1,000 a month.
Sure.
If you're making $35,000, $1,000 a month is life-changing money.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be able to survive. So as opposed to thinking about it like, there's no way I would ever file bankruptcy, I'm going to ruin my family, I try to explain to you that you're going to ruin your family by trying to pay off the rest of this debt, as opposed to let's whack it out, let's whack it right now, nip it in the bud, and now we're improving the rest of our life. And I don't see this, the most I ever see this is when I'm talking to people who are at retirement age, who are already in retirement. They know exactly how much money they're going to be making per month.
Sure.
They know exactly what their mortgage payment is, and they know that they have $1,200 a month that they have to pay just to pay the minimums on their credit card debt. There's no more room. It's not like they can go to Home Depot later and spend $2,000.
Yeah.
There's no room left. So the only thing it is doing to them is negatively affecting the glory years. You know, they're finally retired.
Sure.
They want to actually enjoy life for a little bit. They don't have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and go to work every day and listen to a boss yell at them. But they can't do it because of the big bad B word of bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to describe to them that, first of all, it's a constitutional right that you were allowed to file bankruptcy. And to me, I feel like you deserve, after working all these years, to enjoy the next part of your life. And I don't think that you can enjoy this next part of your life by spending $1,200 of the $3,000 a month that you're making to pay off these credit cards that are maxed out anyway.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking a little bit more about that and a lot more about your IRS debts and can you get rid of your IRS debt through bankruptcy. My name is Justin Clark. The website is www.youhavepower.com. Give us a call, 321-282-1055. See you in just a minute.
News, weather, traffic. News Radio 102.5 WFLA.
In the WFLA newsroom, I'm Chris Curley, News Radio 102.5 WFLA. News brought to you by Trustco Bank, Florida's hometown bank. A 27-year-old man fatally shoots his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend, an off-duty firefighter. Polk County Sheriff's deputies say Caleb McKinney was waiting for his ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend, Clifford Coffer, to arrive home. When the couple pulled into the driveway, McKinney allegedly started shooting at the windshield. The woman and her 5-year-old son, who was also in the car, were not injured. Governor Rick Scott blames the federal government for not doing more to fight Zika, but it turns out Mr. Scott has cut funds for Florida's mosquito spraying program by 40%. Meanwhile, the governor says worries of Zika shouldn't stop people from visiting the state.
We're going to have 120 million tourists this year in our state. We're a safe state. Continue to come.
The governor adds the spraying of the Zika zone in Miami is successful so far. All day, every day, news, weather, and traffic. On News Radio 102.5 WFLA, I'm Chris Curley.
Trouble now coming in on the beach line. Watch for an accident westbound. It's on the right shoulder just west of John Young Parkway. And we're seeing eastbound delays on I-4 continue between County Road 46A and St. John's River Bridge. Westbound solid between Sand Lake Road and State Road 535. And we're seeing delays, too, from an accident eastbound on the 408 at Goldenrod Road. Northbound 417 slow between Curry Ford Road and the 408. See traffic problems? Call the Safe Touch Security Tip Line at 866-676-8477. From the Traffic Center, I'm Paige Carrera.
This report is brought to you by 7-Eleven. Chill out this summer at 7-Eleven. When you get an ice-cold Big Gulp, you'll get a free one-day Redbox movie rental. This refreshing deal won't last long, and it's only at 7-Eleven. While supplies last, subject to additional terms, charges apply for additional nights.
Here's your News Radio 102.5 exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Partly cloudy this evening with a shower or thunderstorm around near the coast, low 73 to 76. Saturday and Sunday, intervals of clouds and sunshine with a shower or thunderstorm around in the afternoon. High Saturday 85 to 92 and 85 to 90 on Sunday. News, weather, and traffic every 10 minutes in the morning. I'm Chuck Ellis. News Radio 102.5 WFLA.
This report is brought to you by 7-Eleven. Chill out this summer at 7-Eleven. When you get an ice-cold Big Gulp, you'll get a free one-day Redbox movie rental. This refreshing deal won't last long, and it's only at 7-Eleven. While supplies last, subject to additional terms, charges apply for additional nights.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. Wall Street's record books are being rewritten after a Friday rally triggered by the news that job growth far exceeded forecasts in July. The Labor Department reported employers created 255,000 jobs last month. Jeffrey Rosenberg of BlackRock Financial called the report wonderful, and he told Bloomberg he does not think the Fed will want to hike interest rates next month.
The rhetoric of the Fed has been clear. This is a Fed that is willing to wait. And so they're going to have to see a lot stronger data for a lot longer period of time.
The Dow Jones Industrials rose 191 points to 18,543. The Nasdaq closed 54 points higher. The S&P 500 added 18 points. Apple joins the list of technology companies offering so-called bug bounties. If you find a security flaw in Apple software and call it to the company's attention, you could be rewarded as much as $200,000. Jeff Bellinger, Bloomberg Radio.
Hey, everyone.
This is Life Tips with Geico.
Life tip 1. Use a shower squeegee to remove pet fur from carpet.
Squeegee is also very fun to say. Consider it when naming a pet or child.
Life tip 2. Switch to Geico and you could save hundreds on your car insurance.
With over 75 years of experience and a 97% customer satisfaction rating, they know what they're doing.
Geico. Get savings into your life. Visit geico.com today.
Tampa Bay Comic-Con is this weekend. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 5th through 7th. Comics, toys, costumes, and celebrity guests. Meet The Walking Dead's very own Daryl Dixon, Norman Reedus. Don't miss Star Wars cast members who played Emperor Palpatine and Darth Maul. And Game of Thrones baddie King Joffrey Baratheon. Comics, toys, costumes, and so much more at the Tampa Bay Comic-Con this weekend, August 5th through 7th. Visit TampaBayComicCon.com for tickets and details. That's this weekend, August 5th through 7th.
WFLA is available everywhere you want to listen on our free iHeartRadio app. Download it now.
You're listening to You Have Power Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark. For personalized help with your legal issues, visit youhavepower.com or call 321-282-1055. Now, back in studio with more expert legal advice, here's Justin Clark.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Tom Benson, for being here with me on a Friday night. Hope you're getting home safely and have a fantastic weekend planned. The phone number for lawyers standing by in my office is 321-282-1055. The website is www.youhavepower.com. That is youhavepower.com. And my name is Justin Clark. We're talking about bankruptcy and saving your home through bankruptcy. Who can file bankruptcy? How do you file bankruptcy? And now we're going to talk about if you have IRS debt, how do you get rid of or discharge that debt by filing bankruptcy? You know, Tom, a lot of people don't know that you can discharge IRS debt through bankruptcy.
Well, I think if people get a letter from the IRS, they don't think clearly. They just panic.
You know that little white envelope that comes in the mail with the little green sticky thing on top that says certified mail?
Sure.
That's a very scary letter. And a lot of you have received them. I've received them. It doesn't make you feel very good because the Internal Revenue Service is by far the most powerful collection agency in the entire world, not just U.S., the entire world. And unlike American Express or Chase or whoever, they don't have to go get a judgment against you to come take money out of your bank or call your job and say, we want to start garnish the wages, okay? They can just do it. Now, they have to give you notice, of course, but they don't have to go to court in front of a judge. They just do it. Why? Because they're a powerful collection company. That is what they are. But you do have rights as well. There's a constitutional right called bankruptcy that we're going to talk about today. And there's a right within the bankruptcy laws that say you can wipe away IRS debt in certain instances. Let me tell you when you can't wipe it away. Number one, you cannot wipe away what we call trust fund taxes. These are for business owners who pay employees. So when you pay employees, you actually withhold their taxes in your bank account, unless you have a payroll company, and then you send a check to the IRS.
Is that every quarter? Something like that?
You can do it quarterly by payroll, whatever, but you have to pay the quarterly taxes. That's correct. Now, sometimes when a business gets in a little bit of trouble, what they will do is they're withholding the money. I mean, this is kind of like stealing in a way, if you think about it. They're withholding their employees' money, and then things get tough at the business, and then they don't send the money to the IRS. This is called trust fund taxes.
This is sort of like the federal government taking your Social Security money to pay something else.
That's called legalized stealing, yeah. That's called the government can do whatever they want.
Yes, okay.
But so the trust fund taxes you cannot discharge in bankruptcy. So right away, number one, you can't. You cannot discharge tax returns for returns that haven't been filed. So it's not like you can just not file for 5 years and then 4 years later say, I want to wipe that out.
Yeah.
No. There's a waiting period. You have to actually file the tax returns to be able to discharge the taxes owed. And number three, fraudulent returns. So if the IRS can prove in bankruptcy court that these returns were fraudulent, you're not wiping that out. It's like anything in bankruptcy, though. If someone was fraud, you can't discharge that debt. So it's the same thing with the IRS.
And I would suspect that even if they have a hint of fraud, they're going to dig deeper into everything else you got.
Well, they're going to fight you on it. They're going to show up in bankruptcy court and fight. You're going to have a trial on that, and you're probably going to lose. So, but the average taxpayer is not doing fraud. They're not stealing their employees' money, and maybe they can wipe away this IRS debt. When can you? Let's talk about income taxes. I mean, that's what we're really talking about here is your income tax, the tax that your employer takes out, or if you're a small business owner, the tax you send in every quarter. Well, the tax must be 3 years old. What does that mean? It must have been due. The return must have been due 3 years ago. So let's take from now, okay? In 2016, we were paying taxes for 2015, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the 2015 taxes were due April 15th of 2016.
Right.
That makes sense, right?
Yep.
So if you had taxes due in 2015, you could not wipe those out until 19. So April 16th, 2019. So there's a 3-year waiting period. So you can't just do it the next year. You can't just wipe them out the next year. It's got to be 3 years old.
Yeah.
But now, what if you filed late? Well, the clock doesn't start ticking until you file. So if you filed late, that's when the clock is going to start. So if you filed for an extension until October of this year, we haven't even filed them yet, but you couldn't do bankruptcy or discharge them in bankruptcy until 3 years after that.
So that would be October 2019.
Exactly. So it's just think in terms of 3 years. So if you have tax debt that's 3 years older or more, we need to start talking. We need to start looking at this and seeing if it is going to be dischargeable or not. I mean, think about it. Let's say you have $20,000 in credit card debt, and maybe you're late on your house payment, but you want to save your home. I mean, having a significant tax burden could really set you over the edge as whether you should file bankruptcy or not. If you can get that wiped out, we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
We need to at least know it's an option. I want you to know that IRS debt is dischargeable through bankruptcy. And by dischargeable, I mean, it's gone. It's wiped out. You know, now you're clean slate. You're done. You can take a credit hit, sure, but your credit's already probably a little bit messed up. So if you do have IRS debt that is 3 years old or more, it's probably time that we start talking about it. Now, you also must have filed within 2 years, okay? So let's say you file late, you got to wait another 2 years, okay? So you can't just file late and then, boom, wipe it out.
Yeah.
The period has to start when you file. So if you wait 3 years to file, you can't just file and then say, I'm wiping it out.
Yeah.
You've got to wait 2 years after you file, because a lot of people file late. You know what I mean?
Sure.
They're going to file 2, 3, 4 years late because the IRS hasn't caught up with them. So, again, if you do have, the biggest point of my story today is this. I need you to know that if you have a lot of IRS debt, you need to at least look at bankruptcy as a possible option. Now, if you don't want to do bankruptcy, we have other fantastic options as well for you. Tom, I've told you before, this government needs money more than any government in the history of our country.
Sure, yeah.
And what does that mean? It means they're being more aggressive in collecting these tax dollars. But the benefit of that, the benefit of them needing this money, is that they're cutting deals more than they ever have before in the past.
Yeah.
There are really two ways that we cut these deals. So let's say you owe $50,000 in taxes. There's a little thing called an offer and compromise. What is an offer and compromise? It's essentially a settlement. It's a glorified term for settlement. If you owe $50,000, we're going to try to go in and say you can't afford to pay $50,000. But if they'll take 10, maybe you can, or maybe they'll take 12.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll take 8. It all depends on your financials. So we're going to get your financials together. We're going to put them all together and try to figure out a way to come up with a solution that the IRS is going to be happy with, because they're going to get some money. Some's better than none, right?
How do you prove to the IRS that you need to have it reduced?
It's all about your financial documentation. You've heard of this Fresh Start initiative. The IRS is trying to cut deals, because cutting deals means bringing in money. What is it? Bird in the hand's better. What is it? What's that saying?
A bird in hand is better than one behind the bush.
There you go.
Yeah.
So they are cutting deals. They need money. They're coming after people, but they're also cutting deals. So if you don't want to file IRS or bankruptcy on your IRS debt, we need to look at offer and compromise, but we also can look at an installment agreement. The IRS, more than ever, is waiving penalties. Penalties add up quickly. If you've ever owed any money to the IRS, you know what I'm talking about. Let's say you owe $10,000, all of a sudden you owe $25,000, a few years later. These penalties add up quickly. Oftentimes we can get them to waive the penalties against you and enter into a payment plan, an installment agreement. Whereas we try to figure out through your financials how much you can afford per month to pay the IRS. Is it $500? Is it $200? Is it $1,000? And now you're back in good standing with them. Now you're a good taxpayer, and you're not having to come up with one big chunk of money, and you're paying them over time. And now they're happy because they're getting paid.
How long? How much time? It depends?
It depends. I mean,
5 years, 10 years?
Typically not 10, but 1 to 5 we see all the time.
Yeah.
And they will do that. Again, this government needs money, ladies and gentlemen. They need money more than ever. They're spending money like crazy, and they're coming after people for these taxes that are owed. But they're cutting deals. I would say if you owe money to the IRS, now is the time to deal with them because they're doing deals.
Yeah.
They are doing deals. The lines are long, but they are there to do deals.
Wipe the slate clean as you can.
If you've ever owed any money to the IRS, you know how stressful it can be. You know, there are a lot of sleepless nights where you're just up thinking, am I going to go to jail? I mean, are they going to come?
The average person's going to think the worst.
Are they going to come take the money right out of my bank account?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. Tom, think about you. Let's say you have 2 kids and a wife, and you have one checking account at Wells Fargo, and you literally woke up one morning and there's no money there.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they just flipped you the middle finger and said, "Sorry, you have no money." Now that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
And when you get these little white envelopes in the mail, you have those thoughts. It's normal to have those thoughts because they can do it. Or no one wants the day when they walk into work and their boss comes in and says, "I got this letter from the IRS and now I'm taking a certain percentage of your wages every month."
Yeah.
Look, life is tough when you're living paycheck to paycheck or month to month or even week to week or day to day as is. But what if they take 25% of your wages?
Right.
Or what if they come in and really wipe out the small emergency fund that you do have?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you owe money to the IRS, number one, I think we really need to look and see how old it is. See if it's something that could be handled through a bankruptcy. If it's not, then we need to look at an offer and compromise or a settlement. Or if we don't want to come up with a big chunk of money, I think we need to look at an installment agreement. Try to get the penalties waived, and let's start paying them off over time.
So if somebody gets that letter, the first thing they should do is call an attorney, and in our case, Attorney Justin Clark and Associates. And what do you do for them?
Well, we're going to send in what's called a power of attorney right away. So I send this letter in, and right away I've leveled the playing field with the IRS because I can see now what they see.
I see.
And we know what they know. So I'm going to be able to send this letter in. Let's call it the timeout letter. Okay, I'm like, look, IRS, timeout. My guy wants to get current. He wants to pay. He's scared. Can we just all take a deep breath and let's try to come up with a solution? So let's call the power of attorney the timeout letter. All right, we're representing him now. We're gonna take over. We're gonna talk to you directly, and it really saves my clients a lot of headache because they know we called a little timeout.
Sure.
But also, instead of waiting on hold for 3, 4, 5 hours to deal with them, now we're doing that for you.
You do the negotiations.
We do it all. You don't ever talk to them again. We deal with the IRS for you.
Wow.
Instead of heading down here to Maitland to wait in line for several hours, only to be told at 4 o'clock that it's go time and we're not going to see you today. We're going to do all this for you. That's what we do. You know, we become your agent. Let's say with the IRS. I mean, look, let's think about it. The IRS and you are really on the same team, right? I mean, we're all on the same government. It's like LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavs. When he negotiates with the Cavaliers, they're on the same team. He doesn't need to be doing the negotiating himself.
Right.
He's got to have an agent do it for him.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like that when you're dealing with the government. This is your government. It's our government. We don't want to have a big fight with your own government, do you?
No.
And that's what we're the middlemen. Let us be the bad guys. Let us wait on hold. Let us wait in line. Let us do the negotiating for you. Where number one, you can go on with your life. And number two, you don't want to have a fight with them.
Yeah.
And then don't be scared anymore either. Don't waste any more time or have any more sleepless nights where you can't even focus on your family or your job or tomorrow or enjoying life because you're so worried about what they can do to you.
Get back into the business of living your life.
Live your life. Do not let the government keep you up at night because of this IRS debt, because they will work with you. But if you just bury your head in the sand, this is not one of those financial times that you should just ignore it, because bad things will happen ultimately. It takes them a while. It takes them a few years to come around.
Is that right? I was just going to ask, from the moment you get the letter, how long does it take for the settlement to go into place?
I mean, if it's an easy settlement, it could be a month or two. You know, if it's a really complicated offer and compromise, it could be months or a year before it gets done. So it really depends on exactly what we're dealing with. And my name is Justin Clark. This is Behind the Law with me on News Radio 102.5. I'm here with Tom Benson on a beautiful Central Florida Friday night. Hope you have fantastic plans for the weekend. Tom, any plans for you, Tom?
Yes. My wife always has a back-to-school breakfast for the entire family.
Are you serious?
So the grandchildren come over and the kids come over, and they have a nice breakfast, and she gives them a little pep talk.
So how many grandkids are we at now? Where are we?
Boy. I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, and 1 out of state, so 7.
So my daughter is now starting pre-K.
Oh, boy.
No, that's good.
She's happy?
Well, I don't know if she's happy, but I'm happy. You know why? It's cheap. Do you know the state of Florida pays for this pre-K thing?
Oh.
So last year she was in pre-K, whatever you want to call that, and I had to pay full price. Now she's in pre-K,
yeah,
and I guess there's some subsidy or something where the state pays for almost all of it.
Mm.
You didn't know about this?
My kids are way past that age.
I just got my first bill, and I was like, this can't be right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like nothing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I had no idea, but I'm very happy about it.
Well, you can use the money towards your air conditioning bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Has it been hot or what?
It's terrible. I mean, just absolutely brutal. What is your feeling on a new school bag every year for the kid?
Oh, you got to.
I wanted to see, and now, listen to me, guy. I'm the good parent here. I wanted to go buy a new bag, and I was like, she has plenty.
New bag, new lunch pail if you use that.
Right.
New shoes. You got to do that.
I kind of wanted to do all that, and I got shot down.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
New bag every year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like they're that expensive at that age either, I mean, it's not like she's going camping with this thing. It's not like she's throwing a tent in there.
Yeah.
I mean, how much can a little Sophia the First bag be?
No, will she get a backpack?
That's what I mean, a bag, like a backpack.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
They're not that expensive, right?
No, they're not. But the thing is, you got to make sure at her age that you get one that she doesn't put a lot of weight in because it's going to hurt the curvature of her back. You see some kids that are slouched over because of school bags,
How's your posture?
Well, most days it's pretty good. Although
That's terrible.
I find myself at times leaning over and not sitting up straight or standing up straight.
Is there a way to fix posture? I mean, how do you do?
Sure.
You just have to, what do you do?
Stand tall, throw your shoulders back, and
okay.
Be erect. It's the old story of I was asked recently when I went in for a checkup, how tall are you? I said, well, on a good day, I'm 6'1".
On a slouchy day?
6'5", 5'11".
Now, my posture stinks.
Really?
I don't know what to do about it. I one time bought this little thing that you're supposed to wear under your shirt.
Yeah.
And it holds you back.
Oh.
It lasted one day.
Yeah, I bet.
I never wore it
well,
again.
Part of the problem now is everybody's hunched over computers, and that's
that is
bad
a problem.
for you.
That's absolutely terrible.
And if you're working on a desktop at work and you're in front of that thing 7-8 hours a day, woo, that's an issue.
Not good. So if you do have IRS debt, again, you can wipe out certain IRS debt through bankruptcy, whether it's a Chapter 7 or a 13. Here are the types of IRS debt that you cannot wipe out.
Mm-hmm.
Employment taxes. We talked about the trust fund taxes. You're just not going to be able to wipe that out. You can't. Taxes that are due on unfiled returns. Like I said, you can't wipe out taxes that you haven't even filed the returns on yet. You have to file the return to actually get assessed the taxes, and then you could wipe them out 3 years later, okay? Or taxes, and this is something we haven't talked about, Tom, taxes that were assessed less than 240 days prior to filing. This gets a little technical, but here's the deal. So there are times where you might file your tax return, and then they will audit you, okay? And then maybe the audit's 2 or 3 years down the road. But yeah, the 3 years has already expired, so you could technically wipe them out in bankruptcy, but no, because this new tax assessment, you have to wait 240 days from that. So sometimes it's more than 3 years. It's a minimum of 3 years, but also you've got to add the 240 if they were to come back later and add more taxes to it.
Got it.
So a lot of technicalities. So what you really should do, if you have any questions about this, is call my law firm. Call them right now. We have lawyers standing by at 321-282-1055. I also have information on the website at www.uhavepower.com.